Racetrack, where we're just about ready to start engines. Let's go down now to Chris Economaki and Mr. Dolph Van Arks, President and Chief Executive of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco USA.
Well, there's $700,000 on the line today, and this is the Camel Grand Prix of Southern California. And gentlemen, I guess we're about to start your engines.
Thank you for cooperating.
And with those immortal words, we're ready to get engines fired. There you see the number 61 pole-sitting Jaguar of Jan Lammers, winner of this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans, seen right here on ESPN. At his elbow at the start of the race will be Bob Wallach, another surprise starter. And once these engines get fired, the drivers, Bill, I think are going to have one concern, and that is, what is this racetrack going to do in these very, very different temperatures? We've gone from 60 and 70 degree temperatures in the foggy weather we had in practice and qualifying to 85 to 90 degrees in bright sunshine. It's going to be a real tricky position.
Yes, very much a question mark right now, that they really don't know what to expect, because the tires that they qualified on yesterday are the same tires they are forced by rules to have on their cars today, and they really don't know what the tires will perform like because of the temperature difference. Yesterday qualifying was 70 degrees maximum. Today we've got at least 80 degrees, and the sun on the track will increase the track temperature a good 20-25 degrees.
As the cars prepare to roll out and the grid is cleared, let's take a look at the way they'll line up for today's 2-hour Camel Grand Prix. On the pole, Dutchman Jan Lammers, who will be sharing with Englishman Martin Brundle for Jaguar. At his left elbow will be Bob Wallach in a Porsche 962, the BF Goodrich machine. On row 2, we will have SAREL van der Merwe starting one of Rick Hendrick's Corvettes to be relieved throughout the day by Elliott Forbes Robinson. And to his left, Jeff Brabham, the newly crowned champion of the IMSA Camel GT Series, will drive his Nissan Solo. Inside row 3 will be Derek Daly, the teammate to Jeff Brabham on the Nissan squad. Daly will go solo. He will start alongside Klaus Ludwig in Bruce Levin's Bayside Porsche 962. Inside row 4 will be Jeff Klein and Bob Earl sharing a Pontiac Firebird GTP. Jeff Klein will start to be relieved by Earl. David Hobbs will start and will be relieved by Jack Baldwin in the Corvette GTP that had such an auspicious beginning with a top 5 finish in Columbus earlier this year. Taking a look through the rest of the field, on row 5, Chip Meade will start in the Fab car with Chevy power to be relieved by Tim McAdam. Oscar Larori will start a twin-turbo water-cooled Porsche, the engine for 1989 in these cars. Massimo Segala will relieve. In row 6, we'll have Bobby Rahal in a Corvette on the inside. At the outside will be Steve Durst and Mike Brockman in a Buick-powered Spice chassis. Row 7, we'll have Rob Dyson attempting to drive solo in a Porsche 962. At his left elbow on this course, which is run counterclockwise, Dan Marvin with 4 victories and 5 starts. He's the pole sitter in the Camel Lights class. Row 8 will be Claude Ballalena of France in a Pontiac Firebird alongside Bryce Cobb and James Weaver in a Porsche 962. Row 9 will have Charles Morgan in a Buick-powered Spice Racer. Bill Cole will be in a Pontiac at his left elbow. Row 10 will have David Loring driving with Tom Hessert, the man in the running for that Camel GT Lights Championship. Next to them will be a Porsche 962 for Giampiero Moretti and Steve Phillips. On the next row, row 11, we'll have Bill Jacobson starting a car in which Tom Hessert is also entered. Hessert will get into the better place of his 2 cars, hoping to win that championship. Don Bell will start alongside. Row 12 will be Frank Everett attempting to drive solo in a Pontiac-powered machine. And next to him will be Bernard Jourdain sharing a Porsche 962 with Canadian John Graham. In row 13, Jim Downing, the challenger to Tom Hessert in the Camel Lights class, will start alongside his teammate Howard Katz, but Jim is committed to that number 63 car, and he will have to stay in it for the rest of the day. And the final row will have 1 car in it, a Mazda-powered Tiger Racer, to be shared by Al Roca and Thomas Lopez, fine racers both from Mexico. Now you are inside our Nissan onboard camera car. Couldn't ask for a better pilot than this. You'll be driving with Jeff Brabham, the 1988 Camel GT champion, and you can see just how close those walls are. This 1.62-mile, 10-turn race course, absolutely surrounded by unforgiving concrete. Let's take a closer look at it now with Bill Adam.
Down the front straight, 150 miles an hour, flat out in 5th gear, but we're approaching a tight right-hand first corner where we're all the way back down to 2nd. Feed power on careful here, because watch the walls. You don't want to get too sideways. Get set up for this little left, and then a very critical corner, the tightest first gear corner on the whole track. Look at this, a long left, and feed that 700 horsepower on, but watch the walls. Up ahead, the most difficult series of corners here. Very high-speed S's and deceptive. You really want to carry as much speed as possible through here. Up ahead, a difficult little section. We have just little flicks. Now watch this. We go up left, right. We're going to go back left. Very tight here again, almost walking pace. And feeding our way around slower traffic as we're exiting onto a long back straight. Now here again, you're back up into second, third, fourth, fifth gear. Fourth gear, very, very quick, long left-hand corner. The car just wants to braking here for a 180-degree corner that's following. Keep it right tight on the inside, accelerate a little bit out here through this right. Now we've got a left facing us, so you're picking up one more gear, a little burst of acceleration, but again, up ahead, we have a right leading us into our second series of very tight corners. Here we go, a little left flick, little right. Right onto the front straight again. We're feeding on 700 horsepower, completing our lap at the Del Mar Grand Prix.
It is an exciting race course indeed. You can see the cars on their pace lap now. We anticipate that we will see that safety car pulling off and looking for a green flag. 27 cars in the race, and it should be a spectacular battle for a purse approaching $300,000. A $140,000 to win situation for these drivers. And Bill, you just know a lot of guys would cure a lot of ills with that kind of money after a season dominated by Nissan.
Well, that's almost as much as you and I make, so it's not a bad deal. But these guys are going to be faced with their first problem in just a few seconds. But here they are coming on the front straight.
And we expect a green flag, and we get it. No side-by-start here. Jan Lammers absolutely steals the start. I can't believe they threw the green flag on that one.
They shouldn't have.
But it does have the advantage of getting the cars all strung out before they get to that first turn. We'll dive inside Jeff Brabham's car. You see him running presently in the fourth position. He is right up behind the Corvette. SAREL van der Merwe got a great start. It will not go down in history as one of the more elegant starts in Camel GT history, but it does have the advantage of getting the cars all strung out. They're not going into that corner 2x2. Jeff Brabham, look at him dropping back behind the Corvette. I am really surprised at that.
Well, Brabham is doing something right now that he's displayed all year, and that's tremendous patience and the fluid motion through the track. With all these cars having very cold tires right now, it puts a real premium on gambling, and they don't know how hard to press. They don't know what the tires are going to do at the next corner. So Brabham will really play that waiting game. He wants to win the race rather than winning the lap.
You're looking at the number 67 Porsche. That is the second place car. That is Bob Wallach of Strasbourg, France. Right now he looks like he's holding up the number 52 machine of SAREL van der Merwe in third, followed in fourth by Jeff Brabham, and in fifth by Derek Daly in the second Nissan.
And the Jag is just flat gone. Now here we've got a tire battle too. The leading Jaguar, this one right here, we are on Dunlop tires, the only car in the race on Dunlops, and look at the lead he's got. Just incredible. Just watch this interval. Now we're going to see an idea of how much he's pulled out. There he is going into turn 3. Look, empty track. There's nobody there. There, BF Goodrich second place, and Goodyear coming up on the SAREL van der Merwe Corvette there in third, and Nissan in fourth.
And it looks like these cars all being held up by Bob Wallach up front in the Porsche. Porsche going for its 50th Camel GT victory, by far the winningest car in the class. But right now that Porsche is holding up the Corvette of SAREL van der Merwe and the pair of Nissans trailing in the fourth and fifth spots.
Yeah, I expect SAREL will use some of that instant torque the Chevrolet is putting out to try and get a run off one of these slow corners and see if he can't outbrake Wallach. That itself is going to be no mean feat because Bob goes in as deep as you could possibly ask. And look at this, he uses everything up, but SAREL gets right wide. Here we're entering a 180. They're both tucking in very tight to those cones. SAREL can't get a pass through here. This entire section is way too tight. You couldn't risk it or you'd end up against the wall for sure.
Great pace early on, but the Jaguar is absolutely gone. This is the second, third, and fourth place cars on the racetrack right now. The Jaguar is already into turn 1 before these cars get to the top of the start-finish straightaway. This entire length of asphalt separates the rest of the field.
And here we go. Brabham just slotting up the inside of SAREL. A really good clean pass there. He saw the car didn't make any motion at all. He's getting that car working very well. His tires will be up to very close to a premium operating temperature. So the car, again, is showing this tremendous Nissan stability we've seen all year.
10 seconds, the gap between the first place Jaguar and this car, the number 67 Porsche of Bob Wallach. What do you make of that, Bill? This Jaguar strategy, obviously, to go out fast and early as we go back inside Jeff Brabham's machine through that very tight chicane. They'll exit right onto the fastest part of the race course, a 2,000-foot straightaway between those S-turns and the very, very tight hairpin turn 7. It's hard to get these cars up to full speed when you've got that kind of a turn facing you.
It really is, and what I attribute that to right now is just the superiority of tires. The Dunlops obviously are working extremely well, and you can see that 2 and 3, the car immediately ahead of, that's Bob Wallach in the BF Goodrich car, and we're in a Goodyear tire car. They are fairly close. You see Brabham pick up little spots of ground here and there, but basically they are quite well matched. The Jag is just simply gone right now.
There you see Jan Lammers, winner at Le Mans earlier this year, 31 years old, from the Netherlands, really taking this Jaguar to town early on. He obviously wants to stay out of trouble by going tremendously quickly, but on a racetrack like this, after what he told Chris Economaki at the top of our show about not knowing what the track would do or the car would do in these new warm, sunny conditions, it's just amazing at the lead Lammers has pulled out at this point.
Well, also you can see, too, that the Jag looks very much like the Nissan has looked, and that sort of effortless driving. There is no sliding around. It's just a very fluid performance right now. So Lammers is obviously driving at a very comfortable pace.
Action continuing at the back of the pack. You're back inside with Jeff Brabham. We're going to take a quick timeout, and we'll be right back to live coverage of the CAMEL Grand Prix of Southern California. Del Mar, stay with us. This is going to be a great one. California, and the number 61 Jaguar of the Netherlands, Jan Lammers, is lapping traffic. He has set a blistering pace since the beginning of this race. His lead now over 12 seconds, and more importantly, he is putting lap traffic between himself and his pursuer. Right now, that is Bob Wallach in the BF Goodrich Porsche, number 67. And right behind him is Jeff Brabham, who has gotten by SAREL van der Merwe's Corvette. There you see the number 63 car of Jim Downing, hoping desperately to catch up to Tom Hessert in the battle for Camel Lights cars. But here is Jan Lammers, the man who is carrying the eyes of the crowd. A big crowd, 50,000 people expected here at the Del Mar Fairgrounds just north of San Diego, California. There is your leader. Now let's see if we can get some idea of the gap all the way back to the second place car of Bob Wallach. You see some of the slower traffic making its way through. Not even in the picture yet is the second place BF Goodrich Porsche. Here he comes now. A 12-second gap, make that 13 seconds back to the second place car as Jan Lammers absolutely runs away with the early moments of this race. With us right now, Davy Jones, who lost his opportunity to get into this race when one of the Jaguars was crashed in practice. Davy, is this team strategy? Is Jan supposed to be setting this kind of a pace early on?
Well, this morning in the warm-up, he felt very comfortable running a quick pace, and you know, all he wanted to do was to break out front and to feel relaxed and comfortable and just run as consistent as he could, and it seems like it's working out very well for him. And
I know it's got to be a tremendous disappointment for you. I'm sure you wanted to get out here and run in the last race of the season. How do you feel about it right now?
Well, it's disappointing to see my car out there and then my co-driver leading the race, and you know, naturally I would like to be a part of that, but you know, I'm a team player, and when it comes down to the team making a decision on team strategy, I think it's best you know, to believe in the team and their decision, so they choose to go with the newly crowned World Endurance Championship, Martin Brundle, and Le Mans winner Jan Lammers.
Hard to get a better team than that. Let's talk about tires for a minute. You guys brought out some Dunlop tires, some radials, then abandoned them in favor of the bias ply tires you started the season with. Why make the change?
Well, you know, we've been running all season on the Dunlop bias ply, and we've got a really good setup, and we know exactly where we are. And when you come to these sort of racetracks where you don't have a whole lot of time for practice time, we just really didn't have enough time to develop the radials and get them properly. So we just felt that here it would be best to stick with our original decision.
You're on board now with CAMEL GT champion Jeff Brabham aboard his Nissan. Bill, let's take a look at his hands on his steering wheel. Right now, he seems to be having very little trouble at all on what has been just a pane of glass of a racetrack.
Yeah, it's very interesting to watch, too. These cars don't have the benefit of power steering, so it's a very difficult job turning the wheel around. But watch Jeff's hands here. He never leaves the wheel. He has locked his hands into a 9-3 position. See that left hand there? Even on the tightest hairpin, he never releases that wheel. And just little bits of bump fighting through the wheel, a little kickback on the steering wheel. And tries to be as smooth as he can. See, right crossed over arms. And you can see he's just feeding that car as close to the wall as possible. Really trying to be precise and get into as much of a rhythm as he can right now.
Jeff BRABHAM running in 3rd position. Oh, now here's a problem. This is one of the 19 cars. That car was to be shared by Tom Hessert and his teammates. They had problems with this car. It got crashed in qualifying. The crew worked all night long to get the car back on the racetrack. For Tom Hessert and Bill Jacobson, looks like they've had to change the nose out. Might have been some early contact.
Well, we remember this team back at West Palm Beach earlier this year. They virtually wrote the car off and rebuilt it using plywood and baling wire and all kinds of things, just glued it together, and then went out and won the race. So they're used to a little bit of adversity. It doesn't seem to upset them at all, but I'm sure it does terrible things to Tom Hessert's stomach right now to be standing in the pits and seeing his potential chances of a championship put that much away from him.
Well, there are 2 cars in that Camel Lights battle for Tom Hessert to take his choice between. My guess right now, it'll be the number 9 car that David Loring is running. Meanwhile, up front again on the point with the number 61 Castrol Jaguar and Jan Lammers, making it all look very easy in the early stages of what figures to be a very, very difficult race here. 2 hours around the streets of this temporary circuit set up on the Del Mar Fairgrounds just north of San Diego, California.
This was quite a spectacular performance that Lammers put on yesterday. In the final qualifying session, he was the last car to come out and just grabbed the pole, and with really a spectacular display. The crowd loved it. They really got all up for this and enjoyed the sound of the big V12 engine. Just great looking car.
The Jaguar team can never be accused of not being prepared for a race. I talked to team manager Tony Dow at the San Antonio IMSA race seen here on ESPN earlier this year. This team practices its pit stops in a mock pit set up at their Valparaiso, Indiana home. They based it on the most difficult pit lane in IMSA racing, which comes at Sebring, Florida, where the 12 hours is contested each year. They practice their pit stops. They even take pictures of the race courses that they're going to be seeing each season. Obviously, a lot of these race courses, in fact, virtually all of them, were new to the team. As Lammers passes yet another lapped car. Let's see, that is Howard Katz, the number 70 Mazda-powered Argo racer. Team manager Tony Dow took 200 snapshots of that short street course in San Antonio just to get his crewmen ready for what they'd be facing at the racetrack.
I used to enjoy doing that too at new racetracks, but my wife found there were too many girls in those snapshots, so I had to stop doing it.
Speaking of preparation, we talked with Tony Dow, that team manager, about choosing drivers for his Jaguar team. Chris Economaki chatted with him, and here's what he had to say.
Tony, you've got 1 car left and 4 drivers, all of whom are fine drivers, and you're going to have to pick just 2. How do you go about the process of deciding on who's going to start in the race here?
Well, you have to decide what the priorities for the race are. You want to win the race, or are we trying to move people, you know, some of our team drivers further up the IMSA points championship table?
What are your priorities?
Well, we're going to go and try and win the race.
Some of the hard decisions having to be made by team managers with 2 cars in the race. They do not have 2 cars. This sole and only representative of Jaguar, with that howling V12 engine, a favorite of fans all up and down the IMSA Camel GT circuit. Right now, going all Jaguar's way. Jan Lammers out front. Bob Wallach is second for Porsche. Jeff BRABHAM third in a Nissan, followed by teammate Derek Daly. And Klaus Ludwig from Germany has moved the Bayside Porsche up into 5th position. And we'll be back for more racing from the Del Mar Southern California Grand Prix. You're watching here on ESPN. 140,000 at stake. It's only going to get better, folks.
If you love cars, you'll love Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring. Every week, Auto Week puts you inside the world's most exciting cars. GTs, sports sedans, collector cars, 4x4s, front drivers. Auto Week makes you an insider with industry news, personality profiles, old cars, columnists, the best classified anywhere. And nobody covers racing like Auto Week. You get the fastest coverage of Formula One, sports cars, stockers, Indy cars. It's all in Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring every week. Call 1-800-554-3000 to get a full year of Auto Week at our special discount price. Just $17.25 for 52 issues, only 33 cents a week. You'll save 74% off the newsstand price. Call 1-800-554-3000. Let Auto Week put you in the driver's seat every week.
Hey, come on, can't you do that later?
Hey, I've always dreamt of owning a car like this, and I'm keeping it forever.
some, it's an antique. To others, it's a dear old friend. If you truly love your car and want to make the romance last forever, protect it with Pure Later filters.
ESPN is your ticket to the NFL when the Washington Redskins and Houston Oilers go head-to-head. Last year, the Redskins were second to none, and now are on the warpath to repeat their super season. All is well in Houston, where the Oilers hope to drill the Super Bowl champion. The Washington Redskins and Houston Oilers battle head-to-head on NFL Sunday Night Football at 8 Eastern live on ESPN.
On a beautiful sun-drenched day in Del Mar, California, just north of San Diego, the final event of the International Motorsports Association CAMEL GT season is hard at it on the streets of a temporary circuit built on the Del Mar Fairgrounds. And there you see the man of the hour, at least the man thus far who has led this race from the get-go, Jan Lammers out of the Netherlands in the number 61 Castrol Jaguar. He has absolutely sprinted away from the field, although now it looks like from the stopwatch his lead is beginning to shrink just a tad, down to about 12 seconds is the lead Jan Lammers holds over the Porsche of Bob Wallach in second position. Jeff Brabham, the new champion, in third right now, followed by Derek Daly in fourth. Klaus Ludwig for Porsche is fifth. SAREL van der Merwe with the Corvette in sixth position, and Oscar Larari in seventh spot. Here they come across the start-finish line and down into turn one. Out the bottom of your picture goes the leader, Jan Lammers, and we're looking back to pick up the number 67 Porsche of the second place car. And there he comes from the back, just crossing the stripe right now, Bob Wallach from Strasbourg, France.
Well, this could be a function of tires, or it could be a driver psychology right now. He may have just reduced his pace just that tiny little bit, or perhaps the Dunlops, which started out being a quicker tire, are maybe starting to overheat. Wallach, on the other hand, is with BF Goodrich tires, and maybe his are now starting to work a little bit better. So we'll have to wait for a few laps, really, to see exactly what's causing this difference right now.
Tires have been this topic of discussion all weekend long, whether you use hard compounds or soft ones. The surface was sticking to the tires, all sorts of crud getting on them, making the cars very, very difficult to handle. And everyone was surprised that BFG was able to do so well. Oh, the number 19 car, Bill Jacobson out of West Palm Beach, Florida. We saw him in the pits a little bit earlier. He has taken a wheel off that one.
I think that car is out of the race. Yeah, he is gone, definitely.
Hard impact with the wall on the fast part of the racetrack. That's out on the backside near the hairpin. Bill Jacobson, who hit it once with a problem, had to have the nose replaced on that Buick Tiger racer. That takes him out of the event. And more importantly, with regard to the Camel Lights Championship, it removes one of the two cars that Tom Hessert had at his disposal in order to protect his championship from the encroaching Jim Downing. There you see, as Bill Jacobson hops out and the corner workers gesture him to a hole in the wall where he can get behind the concrete and get safe. Let's take another look at what happened to Bill Jacobson.
Now we're watching on a very, very fast left-hand corner. You can see he's made substantial contact with the wall. That's just fiberglass bodywork that's shredding itself there. And the car is still mobile at this point, but he can't steer it. Look at this. He is forced. And just look at the right rear tire is up off the ground. He's probably lost the left rear wheel totally. Heartbreaking. Bill Jacobson stands dejectedly behind the wall. That was, as Bill mentioned, on the fast part of the racetrack. Looks like he went straight off. Wasn't able to make that corner. Davy Jones, how'd you see it?
Well, you know, that is a very fast part of the circuit, and you know, when you make contact to the wall like that, it's a hard hit. Like we found yesterday with our second Jaguar with John Nielsen, it does quite a bit of damage where we were unable to fix the car for this weekend. But now here we go to a full-course yellow, which could be a very interesting for the tire situation.
And it will also mean that Jan Lammers, your teammate, Davey, is going to lose that big lead he had over the BF Goodrich Porsche of Bob Wallach. There will be lap traffic in between. And this will provide an opportunity for pit stops. It'll be interesting to note whether or not guys come in and put new tires on the car. First opportunity the drivers will have to talk with their crews about what the racetrack is doing to the cars and how they're working out there.
Yeah, I would imagine you will see some tire stops because the tires were getting all of that pickup yesterday, and they're bound to have picked up some of it. As the race goes on and more rubber gets laid down by the cars, the surface will get better, and they will have lower amounts of pickup from the track. So I would expect you will see some of the major players will come in and do that stop.
The safety car now has the Jaguar in tow, and the field will begin to pack up behind him. and we expect to see some pit stops, although it's still very early in this 2-hour race around the streets of the Del Mar Fairgrounds. See the safety car making its way down the start-finish straightaway, 800 feet long, about 45 feet wide. Behind him, the Jaguar of Jan Lammers, the leader in the race, and the field will gradually close up behind him. That will take away from what was a 12-second lead enjoyed by Jan Lammers. There you see Bill Jacobson, an attorney out of West Palm Beach, Florida, making his way back to the pits after a shunt that tore the right rear corner off his car, parked now against the wall. That's the reason we are presently under a full course caution situation here at Del Mar. Welcome to all our ESPN viewers. After the race at Rockingham, I'm Bob Varsha along with Bill Adam at our announced position here at Del Mar, California, where we are under caution in our live coverage of the Camel Grand Prix of Southern California. The race dominated since the beginning by the Jaguar of Jan Lammers, but right now, there is the reason we are under caution. The number 19 Camel Lights machine of Bill Jacobson went hard into the wall, and here's what it looked like. Coming off the fastest part of the race course into a left-hand sweeper, he wasn't able to make the turn. Hard impact with the outside concrete. Each of those signs is pasted to a piece of concrete that weighs something in excess of 8,000 pounds. And if one thing is going to give, it's going to be race car. Bill Jacobson out of the race, and with it, one of the two chances that Tom Hessert from New Jersey has of winning the Camel Lights Championship. Hessert with 2 cars in the race, hoping to defend the championship from Jim Downing, who has won it 3 times. Jeff Brabham, of course, has already won the championship in the GTP cars. You're inside with Jeff Brabham aboard the championship-winning Nissan. We're going to take a quick time out and bring you back live to GTP Racing at Del Mar after this. Back at Del Mar, California, where the pace car has come off the racetrack, we are back to green flag, and Jan Lammers takes the Jaguar into the lead. Quickly, David Hobbs comes underneath, but he takes the turn a bit too wide, and the number 33 Pontiac gets spun around. Jeff Klein, who contacted Hobbs in the Corvette. I don't know what's going to happen as a result of that. It looks like everybody's okay, although Klein's car obviously is a little bit awry at the tail.
Boy, now that is brain fade. These guys have been under a pace car condition for a few laps. The tires have lost that premium operating temperature, and they don't have the same traction. Both of those cars went in too deep. You saw Hobbs barely made it. We're going to have a replay here just to have a look at exactly what happened. Now, watch this. Now, there's David Hobbs in the Bud car. He cannot get the car slowed down. He's going straight through sliding, but look at Klein. He starts in. He's got way too much speed. The car is swinging around as Hobbs tries to squeak by. There's the contact in the back end. Not enough to do much damage. I think it's just it's probably going to upset David and upset the painter.
We should probably point out that's the driver's side door, too. Nothing like having the back of a car swinging at you. Davey, you made a comment while we were away for commercial about what happens to these tires while the cars are following the pace car.
Well, we find that under the slow lap condition, when you're just cruising around at slow speed, the tires are building up the sealant on them. And when you go back to a green flag situation where you're on the power and everything, the cars are just sliding around and you cannot clean the tires off very quickly. So it'll take a few laps, and I think that's what happened to Jeff Klein. He just went in there, had no grip whatsoever out of the rear tires, and just looped her around.
Davy Jones from Jaguar, who was able to join us here in the announce position because his car crashed yesterday. John Nielsen, taking the car around, crashed in qualifying. They could not get it fixed. Thus, there is one Jaguar in the race, and it presently leads. This is the second place machine, number 67, Bob Wallach for Porsche, the BF Goodrich car. And you can see the tail twitch every now and then as the wheels begin to spin on this very, very slick 1.6-mile racing circuit. Willie T. Ribbs drove in the GTO race and won it this weekend. He likened this racetrack to trying to drive an iron filing between two magnets. The concrete walls just want to suck your car in. You're on board with Jeff Brabham and our in-car camera. First time we've been aboard the Nissan, and there's an example of what I'm talking about as the wheel twitches back and forth.
The car really does get loose. This is a car with an excess of horsepower. They have well over 700 horsepower on it, and normally the car has been so good this year, they're able to put that power down without a problem. On this particular street circuit, it is very slippery. Just to bring the new viewers up to date, this sealant that was put on the track to hopefully make the traction better hasn't worked because of temperature and weather conditions, and it's really made the track greasy. Now, for these fellas to put down that much horsepower, really trying to get a lot of power down, the car is just getting into power slides, and watch Jeff's hands exiting corners and even going down the straights. He is fighting that car and just constantly correcting little slides.
Kind of ironic, too, because all year long, everybody has talked about the great handling of the Nissan. And so if the Nissan's having problems out there, you know everybody else is as well.
You know, and an interesting thing, too, that off the drop, the Jaguar stretched out an immediate lead. And right now, here he is again. Lammers has just run away. When the green flag has fallen, the Dunlop tires have been the superior tires. And he is pulling out a very strong lead right now.
Great drive thus far from Jan Lammers, who said at the top of the show that they had been too aggressive at Columbus, where both cars suffered a crash. There is another tail-happy shot of the number 67 Porsche of Bob Wallach. That is what the driver's having to deal with. Not only are you shifting and steering and braking and keeping an eye on everything in your car, but you are also having to slip that clutch to make sure that the car stays straight. But Bob Wallach is the kind of guy who enjoys running on courses like this. Chris Economaki had a chance to ask him about his success on temporary circuits.
Well, first of all, you have to have a good car and good tires, and obviously we have good tires now, and we have been working very hard for 2 years with Goodrich to get the car where it is now, and the car has improved itself, and as you probably know, I love this kind of circuits.
He does love these circuits. Wallach has always been really spectacular on street circuits. Anytime he's gone to Miami or any of the tracks, likes getting up against walls, and he isn't at all intimidated by the concrete wall. Gets his foot into it, and this particular motor, the B.F. Goodrich Porsche engine, I think is built by Ed Pink, the old drag racer, if memory serves me correctly. So he will have a ton of horsepower to play with.
In fact, Bob Wallach enjoys street courses so much, he has won twice. That ranks him second in the Camel GT Series in victories. Price Cobb and Jeff Brabham have each won 3 street courses, as has the late Al Holbert. Meanwhile, we haven't had too many opportunities to call Price Cobb's number. There you see the number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche. Price Cobb with the stripe along the right-hand front fender there, who has had nothing but trouble all weekend long as they tried to get this car dialed in. Excuse me, that's James Weaver in the car right now. I believe Price Cobb is going to wait to get into the car. Cobb running well up into the top 5 in the Camel GT points this year. So Rob Dyson and James Weaver have got the 16 and 18 cars out there on the racetrack, hoping to keep them out front, particularly this car, number 16, because they have a shot at a $30,000 bonus put up by the Kodak Copiers people for the car that completes the most racing miles during the season. And right now, that car, number 16, is leading the series in miles completed thus far this year.
Now, just a word of explanation. We keep talking about why Tom Hessert has not started a car and why Price Cobb is not in this. What happens in a race is that if you start a car and the car breaks down, you cannot jump into another car and get any points. You have taken yourself out of that position. This is why some of the drivers are waiting to make their choice. They want to take the better of the 2 cars, the higher position for them.
And there you see what traffic can do as Jan Lammers threads the needle through turn 1 and out to turn 2. Great racing on a very, very treacherous race course here in Del Mar, California. Stay right there. We'll be back in a moment. Back live at Del Mar, California. Bob Varsha and Bill Adam with you at our announced position. Chris Economaki and Ralph Shaheen down along pit road. And right now you're looking at the leader in the Camel Lights class for the smaller prototype cars. That is Dan Marvin, having a great day for himself. Running in second is David Loring, and third is Charles Morgan. Now there is the second place car, David Loring out of Chocorua, New Hampshire, one of the great characters on the Camel GT circuit. Man who once left racing for a couple of years to go up and be a farmhand up in Anchorage, or up in the wilds of Alaska, I should say, not even near as big a city as Anchorage, to think things over. And then he came back and has developed into one great sports car racer. He is the only hope right now for his teammate Tom Hessert, who's trying to hold off Jim Downing in the battle for the Camel Lights Championship and a $35,000 bonus. Right now, Tom Hessert is standing by along pit road.
We're standing down here now with Bill Jacobson and Tom Hessert. Bill, what happened to you outside?
For Buick Tiger, the plan was to just drive slowly enough to finish this race. And I was out in the back. We had changed the nose one time, coming down the back straight, and one of the Corvettes came by, and we got into it.
Tom, what does this do to your championship chances now?
Well, it just eliminates 1/3 of the championship. The possibilities of us getting into the car. Right now, I still have David Loring, and that is a lap ahead of everybody else. So it still gives me time to get in and out of the car and still take over in the lead. So hopefully I still get there.
Well, that's the story from down here in the Hessert Racing Team. Back up to you, Bob.
And meanwhile, Dan Marvin continues to lead in the lights class.
Interesting little story. We had dinner last night with Tom Hessert and his wife, and Tom had a real good point. That he said the last couple of races have not been fun. It's been business, worrying about the championship. He can't just jump into a car and go out and roar around and have a good time. He has to think about this great bonus that Camel puts up.
And as you watch the leader, Jan Lammers, behind him is David Loring, and you see just how small the gap has gotten between Loring and Marvin in the battle for the lead in the Camel Lights class. You're right, Bill. Tom has been having a few sleepless nights, I think, worrying about this first championship. He told me before the race this weekend that what he came into 1988 looking for in the Camel GT Series was respect. He wanted the other drivers to respect him as a professional racer. Did not have a lot of professional experience. Had driven a lot of amateur racing, but he certainly has it now, and he's the only driver in the Camel Lights class with a chance of wresting that championship away from Jim Downing. Meanwhile, there is Jan Lammers, the overall leader, passing Lights leader Dan Marvin, who moves aside smartly to let him come through. And that is a key to racing two classes of cars at once. They look very similar. The P car is a good bit faster because of their bigger, more expensive engines. And it's very important, Davey, I'm sure you can comment, that the Lights drivers give way when the P racers come through.
Well, it is, because, you know, we are approaching at them at quite an incredible amount of speed quicker, and it's good that they're a professional type of driver. And we have Camel Lights.
That's the 97 car of Jean-Louis Ricci and Claude Ballalena. I believe Claude was going to start the race. Great French race driver, 50 years old, many-time runner at Le Mans. Looks like he has impacted one of these unforgiving concrete barriers, gotten out of the car, and that is going to be it for him as well. Really? Thus far, we don't show any yellow flag, and maybe they figure it's not in a bad enough situation.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll require a pace car or not. I expect it will, but they might be able to get away with it because it's really on the inside part of the track, and as the cars exit that corner, they're going over to the far side, so it may not be a real critical point.
Only a slight bit of exterior damage. Looked like the left rear tire is flat or maybe all the way off the rim.
I think he's made contact with both sides, and it's probably been a ricochet situation, and he's hit this side first of all. We can see that left rear is gone down.
Now that is just at the S's of the racetrack, and you can see that the racing line is a little bit over to the left, so it looks like that car is conveniently out of the way, at least for the moment. Sky's beginning to gray over a little bit here at Del Mar, California. Once again, you're watching live. The temperatures may drop a little bit again as the afternoon wears on. We are not far, I would say less than a mile from the shores of the Pacific Ocean here at Del Mar. A facility that was built as a horse race track by crooner Bing Crosby, but is given over once a year to auto racing. Second year for the Del Mar Grand Prix. Now here's the number 52 machine of SAREL van der Merwe that was running as high as third at one point, shown sixth when he pitted, and it looks like something fairly terminal.
Yeah, they're pushing that one back, trying to hurry to get out of the way too. Maybe they want to bury it. They have not had a good season with this car. That used to be such a dominant car in the Camel GT series.
Now there you see the car. This is looking down on it behind the pit wall. It looks like suspension damage is the problem. You see something there, Davey?
Well, you do. You see the front tire where it's just got an awful lot of camber to the right-hand side of the car, or excuse me, left-hand side.
And SAREL van der Merwe climbs out, helmet on.
See that accessible bodywork there? That's tear-away bodywork they have.
Obviously, another impact with the wall. SAREL van der Merwe, 11-time South African rally champion with over 60 victories in that form of the sport. 4 Camel GT wins, but it will not be today. Meanwhile, here comes a train of competitors, and at the back of the pack, swinging wide underneath David Hobbs, goes Jan Lammers, right in behind Chip Meade in that Chevy-powered Fab car. Great racing.
Superb braking that Jaguar is showing. Really? Oh, geez, there's something, a little bit of tapping and bumping might have gone on there.
Number 8, Chip Meade, slowed up suddenly, and it looked like Jan Lammers might have clocked him a little bit from behind, but I don't see any obvious damage.
This is a bit frustrating at that point. They're going through the section right there past the 97 car. Now Lammers should get a shot up the inside. Nope, can't quite do it this time, but he's in a good position to stay set up. Once you get through this little squiggly part, here we go, just a left and a right. Now they're exiting onto a long, fast section of track, and I think Lammers will have a shot at the end of all this, a very fast left-hander.
Well, Meade takes the line as well. Now they're going to go 3 wide. Lammers goes underneath. This is a really dicey part of the racetrack.
Dale Earnhardt would love this.
And Rob Dyson steps aside of the number 16 car as well as Jan Lammers finally makes his way through the traffic, and off he goes. Meanwhile, Ralph Shaheen is standing by on pit road with Sarel van der Merwe.
Well, Bob, I'm standing here with a very disgusted Sarel van der Merwe. Sarel, what happened to you out on the course?
Well, we came up about onto some slower traffic. I was behind Klaus Ludwig. And he went through, and as I was following the same way, this idiot in the camel light just turned straight into me. Obviously, he wasn't looking what he's doing.
Well, now, Bobby Rahal is driving the other Corvette. He's supposed to be doing it all by himself. Will either you or Elliot Forbes Robinson now maybe share the rest of the race with him?
I suppose it depends on how he feels.
All right, well, we'll have to wait on that story. Bobby Rahal right now, the only one driving one of the Hendrick Motorsports Corvettes. Back to the booth.
We have yellow on the race course, and the pit stops have started. One of the Nissans is already into the pit. It's the number 83 car of Jeff Brabham. Right there is the number 76 Corvette of the Peerless Group. And David Hobbs going to climb out and let Jack Baldwin out of Marietta, Georgia, climb in. And there'll be tires all around and fresh fuel for that car. Meanwhile, Brabham already in the pits now. Here comes his teammate. As you take a look out the windshield, that's what Jeff Brabham sees. Right behind him, Derek Daly is pulling in just as Brabham gets off onto pit road. There is the number 84 car of Daly. Looks like they're going to put new tires on that car. You see the stickers on the tires at the front of the car there. That's why they call them stickers. They have the showroom label still on them when they go on the car, as opposed to the scuff tires, which the drivers take out in practice and wear down a little bit to get rid of that manufacturer's glaze around the outside. Quick crew, there's a good look at the young man from Ireland, now living in Noblesville, Indiana. In fact, just up the road from Jeff Brabham, his teammate with the Nissans this year. Now, it looks like they're having a little problem with the left rear.
Yeah, just that won't go on properly. Okay, now he's done. Car down and underway. Good.
It wasn't elegant and it wasn't quick, but at least they got it on with no damage to the hub. And Derek Daly will get back out. Meanwhile, big problems here for the Peerless Corvette. Now, David Hobbs, you see, without his helmet, looking at the front corner of the car with a Camel GT official.
That's right. There's an infraction has taken place here. They're actually being held in the pit for a penalty. They're not being allowed out.
And so the car is being held. Oh, what a tough break for these guys. Hobbs and Baldwin brought the car out, finished so well at Columbus a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, here is the leader, Jan Lammers, who's taking the opportunity under yellow to put 4 tires on the car. He will now get out, and in will go the new world champion in Group C sports car racing. Cars very much like the one you're looking at. Martin Brundle will be climbing in. Let's go down to Chrissy Konamaki.
The Jaguar is finishing up a pit stop that's called a little bit early here. Most of the team said that the window, the lap that they could stop and get fuel on and not have to stop again before the race is over, was lap 30. They're right about at that point. They're not quite sure of the fuel consumption, but everything is going very well. Lammers has gotten out of the car, and the newly crowned World Sports Car Champion Martin Brundle is now in the car for the remaining laps. Lammers is talking with Tony Dow, the team manager. They seem to be going along very well. It's interesting that the first 2 cars in today's race are not on Goodyear tires. The Jaguar is on Dunlop in the second place. B.F. Goodrich cars on B.F. Goodrich tires. The tires may be one of the stories today. Back to you, Bob.
And here is our Nissan in-car riding on Goodyear tires as he passes under the Goodyear Bridge. Obviously, this will jumble the running order. We'll get it all straightened out. When you come back, we'll be ready to go green once again at Del Mar. More from California in a moment. Live at Del Mar, California, where you see Bob Wallach, who was running second, pitting. We are still under caution here at Del Mar. Right now, Klaus Ludwig for Porsche has taken over the lead. Jeff Brabham running in second in Nissan. Third is Martin Brundle, having taken over from Jan Lammers, who put that Jaguar up at front. Bryce Cobb running in 4th position right now, but we expect a couple more pit stops. Let's go down right now to Chrissy Konamaki.
I'm with Jan Lammers and Tony Dow here. Jan, was that pit stop scheduled, or did you come in early?
No, it was scheduled. It maybe a couple of left early, but we used the advantage of the yellow. But we're on schedule, so no problems.
And you can get to the end now with the fuel you have on board?
Yeah, I presume so, yeah.
You ran away from everybody. The car obviously was doing very well. What do you think made such a big difference?
Well, we had the whole setup of the car really good. team did a fantastic job on it, and I had a clear track, and we're all ready. So we're just hoping that we can last another hour to take the win.
You know, the Porsche Wallach was holding you there after the restart. He stopped and he took the lead there. You think it's going to be a close race?
Sure, it'll be a close race, but I have a good feeling, so it might just come out in our advantage.
Okay, thanks very much, Jan Lammers. Back to you, Bob Varsha.
Well, Lammers and his good feeling and his aggressive driving style took him to victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, seen by many of you out there on ESPN this year. And it looks like it might just work once again now that Martin Brundle, with plenty of Formula One experience and the reigning world sports car champion, is in the car. Can't ask for a better driver lineup than that.
No, this is incredible. If you look at the setup we've got right now, we've got Klaus Ludwig in the Bayside Porsche that's leading the race. We've got BRABHAM sitting right on his tail and Martin Brundle right on his tail. This is just a perfect scenario for the restart. And you couldn't ask for anything better. We saw Brundle just put in one of the drives of the year in Cedar Point, California, when he caught up to BRABHAM and passed him cleanly and then pulled away. Got a really good lead. It was just a spectacular performance by obviously one of the best drivers in the entire world.
And just a few weeks ago, we saw a great battle between Jeff BRABHAM and that Bayside Porsche of Klaus Ludwig. Ludwig, whose terrible gaffe on the mileage estimate at Le Mans may have cost his team and the Porsche factory a victory in that race, wants to come out and prove that he can win races for Porsche once again. So it's going to be a really interesting battle when the green flag flies. And he has to lead that powerful Nissan and the Jaguar, which has dominated the race thus far.
Well, as I said at Columbus, that I really think Klaus Ludwig may be arguably the best street racer in the world. He is a very, very good driver, and particularly in a 962. He is just a wealth of experience in this car. He's very comfortable and superb car control, which I think may play a very big factor in the latter stages of this race when the track conditions are questionable.
You see Jeff BRABHAM looking to his left, checking his mirrors, perched on the outside of the windows. Lights are still on the pace car, which means we have at least one more lap to go around. When those lights go out, it will mean one lap to go. You will have the Bayside Porsche of Klaus Ludwig. Behind him, Jeff BRABHAM in the Nissan. Behind him, Martin Brundle in the Jaguar. Now, while we have a moment, that pace car that I just mentioned is being driven by a name familiar to racing fans, legendary CARROLL Shelby. And I asked Carroll before the race if he still likes getting out there on the track.
Yeah, I really enjoy getting back on the track. I don't really care to get back in competition because I'm not going to con myself that, you know, an older person has the reflexes, but it's really a lot of fun to whip it around there.
What will your specific responsibility be with regard to leading that field around? What will be uppermost in your mind?
See that it's paced properly so you don't go too slow so their engines overheat. See that you don't go too fast, because if you go too fast, they'll be in the wrong gear when it comes, when the green flag drops. So the proper speed, see that they're lined up, and be ready to go around another lap if things aren't just right.
Well, CARROLL Shelby, creator of the Shelby Cobra, out there driving the pace car today. He runs an outfit called Shelby Automobiles, still builds thousands of cars and trucks, high-performance vehicles for a variety of applications. Dodge, of course, one of the sponsors of today's race. There you see the man himself. Oh, I thought maybe the lights were going out there.
I hear he also built a concoction called Red Hot Chili a few years ago to put Pepto-Bismol back into the market.
Quite the gastronome is Mr. CARROLL Shelby. He's also building an all-out racer for the Sports Car Club of America, I understand. And it's going to be a spec car for a series. All of the cars, the drivers won't be able to change the engines that will be put into the cars. You can play with the suspensions and the aerodynamics and that sort of thing. A new class of racing for SCCA competition, all built by Shelby Automobiles. And you know, if CARROLL Shelby has a hand in it, it's going to be done right. This is the view that Jeff BRABHAM has, presently sitting in second position as he goes down the start and finish straightaway. Lights still flashing up ahead on the pace car. And it should be a great race. We will stay inside this Nissan when the green flag waves to give you an idea exactly what it looks like for Jeff BRABHAM.
Also, for viewers wondering, the silver that you see alongside of Jeff's helmet, that'll be part of the cooling system for himself. He wears a cool cap, just a very tiny cap that slips on below his helmet, pumps nice cold water through and around his head as much as possible. Really does help you in a race like this. If you can keep, oh, now here we have number 18, the DYSON car in the pits. Now it looks, he's stalled it, but he's
James
getting
Weaver's
back out.
helmet. James Weaver's gotten into the car, and it looks real squirrely as he makes his way down. I'm wondering if they don't have a steering or suspension problem, or maybe he was just trying to give the tires one last squeak.
I expect just getting loose. Let's go down to Chris Economaki.
I'm with Walter Gerber, the crew chief for Klaus Ludwig on the Bayside car. Walter, with the yellow flag, why have you waited so long to bring Ludwig in? He's leading.
Well, we want to wait so we have enough fuel to go to this.
I see. Okay, that tells us he's waiting here to bring him in. It looks like Mr. Ludwig will be coming in now. Yes, they're coming over the wall with the tires and so forth. And we'll stand by and time this pit stop for leader Klaus Ludwig. They're hoping that the yellow flag stays out. Back to you, Bob.
Walter Gerber, one of the best in the business. Recently, in fact, just this weekend, the Bayside team, it was announced, will be campaigning not only a GTP car in this series next year for Porsche, they will also have a kart Indy car for a selection of races next year, running under the Texaco banner, the outfit that sponsors Davey Allison of the NASCAR Winston Cup circuit. So look for a Bayside Motorsports efforts in both CAMEL GT racing with a Porsche and on the kart IndyCar tour next year. And that's good news for Bruce Levin and all the boys up in Redmond, Washington.
Do you think CART is ready for Bruce Levin? Have they ever laughed as much?
Bruce Levin, one of the great characters, a man who built his business, Bayside Disposal, a trash collection business. He liked to celebrate his notoriety by painting the image of a trash man on the side of his race cars for a number of years.
Yeah, great outlook. Miss Bruce not being here.
The lights are now out on the pace car, and I noticed that the number 3 car of Oscar Lerori pitted just as the lights came out. There you see the car, and this is the machine that they say is the future of Porsche in the CAMEL GT series. It has a twin turbo as opposed to the single turbo on the present cars, water-cooled heads, 6-cylinder flat 6 engine for which Porsche is rightfully famous. But the engineers say it's not quite all that they would want it to be. And the reason is those twin turbos are throttled back and restricted with 36mm restrictors that control the amount of air that goes into the turbocharger. And to use a saloon analogy, that's about 2 fingers of air for each of banks of 3 cylinders. And they say that's just not enough to make it competitive with the 1988 spec Porsches and, of course, the benchmark for the series right now, the Nissan.
Well, you know, to a certain extent, I hope that is not the car of the future, because this has just escalated the price of racing up into the $500,000 area just for the car. No warranty, no spare parts. You get the car and thank you, goodbye.
There is the pace car. One more turn will be on the front straightaway, and we expect a restart. There he goes through the left-hander, make that 2 more turns. Now the right-hander. Easy to get lost on this very difficult 1.6-mile circuit. The pace car is now off.
Oh, and
Brabham spun at the head of the straightaway.
Brabham got on the gas too early, got sideways, and he has tapped the wall very lightly.
Oh, what a break for Jeff Brabham, who is now facing the wrong way against traffic. Meanwhile, the rest of the field motors away.
Unbelievable. That's the first mistake.
It looks like there's 2 cars involved. I think that might have been the 09 car of Steve Durst and Mike Brockman also involved. Yes, it is. The Buick-powered GTP car for Steve Durst is all the way around.
I think he did just exactly the same thing. Now look at on the right front fender, just barely in the picture there. You can see a flap sticking up. And
now
there's another.
We got a spin now. That's between turns 1 and 2, and traffic backs up behind him.
Now what is happening, Bob? These tires are dead cold from all those pace laps. They're trying to get underway very, very hard and put horsepower down. They can't. The tires are just spinning. It's like being on snow or ice.
It's like an ice race up in Minnesota somewhere. That was Frank Everett out of Bellevue, Washington, the number 37 Pontiac racer. And you saw just what can happen on a racing surface this tight if somebody gets out of shape. Meanwhile, here's the guy who's benefiting from it all, the Jaguar of Martin Brundle.
Incredible. We find that Brabham is human after all. That is the first mistake. Really amazing.
And he was running in 3rd position. You can see that Martin Brundle's already run down and passed Klaus Ludwig. So make your order. Brundle in front with the Jaguar, followed by Klaus Ludwig in the number 86 Porsche right here. And we have really had a dramatic turn of events. Bob Wallach in the number 67 Porsche is back out running 3rd on a racetrack right now, followed by Derek Daly in the number 84 Porsche. Bobby Rahal in the number 22 Corvette looks to be moving up into 5th position. What a break for Jeff Brabham, who has now got all kinds of time to make up on the racetrack.
Well, he'll fly. We can't really see any major damage on the car other than just that very small winglet.
But we have to say that that is exactly what Brabham did not want to happen. He did not want to have to make up time on the racetrack. But that is going to be what he'll have to get back into this race. We're going to take a quick time out here. The Nissan of Jeff Brabham, the Nissan 300 ZX Turbo, a car that has won 9 of 11 races in the 1988 series. It has also won the Drivers' Championship for the man that you're sitting next to right now, Jeff Brabham, out of Australia, now living in Noblesville, Indiana. He would like to win another race today and make it 10 for 12, which would tie a record set years ago by Bob Sharp, running in the Camel GTU class, who won 10 of 12 races. Right now, the record of 9 victories in a season is shared between Brabham, John Paul Jr., the late Peter Gregg, and the late Al Holbert. Back up front with Martin Brundle out of Kings Lynn, England. New winner of the World Sports Car Championship, driving Jaguars for team owner Tom Walkinshaw in Europe and elsewhere in the world. Now trying to score a victory here.
Look right behind him, Bob. Bob Wallach has closed right up with the BF Goodrich Porsche. This is really developing into a battle here. I expected Brundle to get out and run away again, just like he's done in the opening laps every time we've had a slowdown or at the start of the race. Wallach now has stayed right with him and appears, in fact, to be closing up a bit.
Bob Wallach, who got new tires on that car during a pit stop and apparently injected some new life into it.
Definitely closing. Look at this, right up on the tail, almost touching there, exiting that 180. Now, Wallach may try and set up for a pass at the end of the long front straight. They have a few corners to go through here. There's a 90 right. Now, what Wallach will try and do is to get a hard run through this section right here and get on the power as early as possible. No, I don't think he can do it this time. Brundle has got a real nice lead.
Down into turn 1, sharp right-hander. But the important aspect of this is that when guys are running this close together, it's hard to look at your mirrors and drive the race car straight ahead at the same time. Great battle between Bob Wallach and Martin Brundle. England and France. German race car, British race car.
Yep, this is a 6-liter V12, and look at Wallach is right on the tail. I think he may have tried to pass at that point if it hadn't been for the slower car. The leading car is the 6-liter V12 Jaguar with a basic engine similar to what you get on street Jaguars. The car following, Bob Wallach's, is less than a 3-liter flat 6 turbocharged car. Does not bear any similarity to a street car at all. This is a pure racing engine.
46 laps into the Camel Grand Prix of Del Mar, California. And look at the battle for first place. Martin Brundle trying to hold off Bob Wallach as they make their way around slower traffic. Camel Lights drivers moving aside to let the GTP leaders come through. A great nose-to-tail battle on a very difficult 1.6-mile, 10-turn race course.
Wow. Now here we may get a shot. Look at Brundle moving over as far as he can. Wallach slides back over to the outside to try and get a better exit from this corner.
Tactical drift, we used to call
watch
that.
Wallach try and go up. No, he's not going to do it.
Not enough room going into turn 2. Here's another short run down to turn 3 and then on to a quick part of the race course. Let's see if Bob Wallach wants to try something off this turn as they head down for the S's.
The Porsche appears to have real superiority on the very slow corners. You watch when they get into the very, very tight corners. He's able to close right up through the high-speed stuff. There you saw Brundle could pull out what looks like a 2 or a 3 car length lead. But now when they're in the tight stuff,
you notice those pylons at the bottom of that turn as they headed into those S's. That used to be these 8,000-pound blocks of concrete. But in the interest of safety, you see the pylons there to your left. They took away the concrete to give the spectators a little better view and to give the drivers a little better view around the race course.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing here is that this car wasn't even scheduled to come to this race earlier this year. Chris Economaki is standing by now with the car owner, Jim Busby.
We're with Jim Busby waiting for his car to come by before we intrude on him here, but whatever it was they did during the pit stop has certainly revitalized the car. Here they come now. Bob Wallach only a car length behind leader Martin Brundle and trying on the inside. Jim, what did you guys do to that car in the pit stop?
We've just put on fresh tires and we leaned the motor down just a little bit so we can go the distance without stopping for fuel again.
It seems to be running better than it did before.
Well, I think that what ended up happening is our tires responded to the track conditions a little bit better with fresh rubber. Remember that we all started on the tires that we qualified on.
You think you can win it?
Yes.
There you go, Jim Busby, Bob Wallach's car owner. Back to you, Bob.
That's the kind of attitude you've got to have in this business.
Real positive attitude. I think they can win it, too. Wallach has really drawn up very dramatically here, and we're watching to see if he can possibly overtax the Jaguar brakes, which has been one of the strengths. The Jag has just been a superb car under braking, but watch when Brundle dives in here. Middle of the track, and this is where Wallach closes up. Look at this, just feet away from the back end. Now he will try and keep the car as close as possible. He loses a little bit of ground here, but he wants to stay very close for the pit straight. What he wants to try and do is to get a pass coming into turn 1, a wide section of track, braking from fairly high speed. Now here we are, we're down the pit straight. Wallach wants to try and slot over to the inside to see. Can't do it. Again, Brundle is getting so deep into the corner. Nice piece of driving.
And by deep, you mean, Bill, that he is waiting later and later to hit the brakes.
You wait to the point where you think there is no way I can make this corner, and then put the brakes on to slow down.
Meanwhile, joining us here, Team Jaguar's Davy Jones has been watching all this, crossing his arms, pacing in anticipation. Tough to watch your teammate out there, Davy?
It is, you know, especially when you've got somebody as experienced and as good as Bob Wallach pressuring you as hard as he is.
43-year-old Bob Wallach, many-time European sports car champion, many times the winner of the Porsche Cup, which hails the most successful Porsche racer not associated with a factory team. There is a Porsche Cup North America to do the same honors for North American Porsche race drivers. That cup has been won the past 2 years by COBB, and it looks like he is going to pick it up yet again and retire the trophy by winning it 3 years in a row. But right now, all that this man wants in the number 61 car, does Martin Brundle, is to get Bob Wallach off his back. Meanwhile, whoa, we got another battle shaping up here. I thought I saw another Porsche in that picture. And here you see the Nissan. This is Jeff BRABHAM trying to overtake Klaus Ludwig in the number 86 Porsche as they go by a slower car to the right. That is Ludwig up ahead. BRABHAM trying to mow him down.
You can see, too, that was quite interesting. I just saw Ludwig was actually able to pull out a little gap, Xing out of that corner. The Nissan has had tremendous response all year long, leaving these slow corners. It puts the power down very well, and yet Ludwig actually picked up a little bit.
Great battles all around the racetrack. BRABHAM getting a little bit sideways there.
Maybe that's a reason why BRABHAM did not pick up. He might be losing the rear tires a shade.
He reached for the red knob on the dashboard. Davey, what's that?
I don't know. It's interesting.
I'll suspect it's brake bias, that maybe under braking, he's having a little trouble with the car not braking evenly, and so he twisted it to send some of the bias over to the other wheels.
Yeah, if this was the Ed Pink engine Porsche, I might think it's nitrous oxide on there, but
steady on, lad. Of course, these drivers of turbocharged cars under Camel GT rules are not allowed to have turbo boost controls inside the cockpit, so he's not playing with the turbo boost. We do know that. Meanwhile, back up front, the battle between Jaguar and Porsche. This is the way the year was supposed to be set up. All year long, the Castrol Jags against the fleet of Porsche 962s that turn out for every race. Bob Wallach in the number 67 car, looking, trying to get by to one side or the other. Along the way, Jeff BRABHAM and Team Nissan, along with John Morton and Tom Gloy and now Derek Daly, have absolutely taken the series by the throat. But today, the Nissan is back in the pack, and the battle is between Jaguar and Porsche.
Just tremendously quick reaction there by Wallach. He had for a second decided to follow the GTP light car, that blue car that you just saw. He decided to follow him through the corner. The light car stayed wide, allowing the Jaguar and Wallach through. Wallach realized it and immediately changed his line and slotted quickly to the inside for that pass. Has been able to stay in touch with the Jag because of doing that.
7 cars remain on the lead lap at top speeds in excess of 150 miles an hour. Keep in mind that once again, this is a temporary circuit. It is parking lots. It's not even a street circuit such as we see at San Antonio and Columbus. The surface is very, very rarely used, and as a result, it needs to have rubber built up on it in order for these big cars to get that 700 horsepower down to the racetrack. And as that rubber is laid down, the cars will perform better and better as the race goes on. So what you're seeing now is nothing compared to what we're going to see as the afternoon wears on, and we're glad to have you with us here on ESPN.
Wallach is getting tremendous runs through that last year. Oh, and there's a Nissan against the wall. That is BRABHAM. He is against the wall very, very hard. Look at this. The right front corner is gone.
And you saw Jeff reach down into his lap, perhaps to unhook the buckles. He has the door open right now. His feet jammed together down there in the footwell. And what a terrible moment for Jeff BRABHAM.
Oh, no. Well, he is getting out. You can see he is
reaching down to his knees. I think he may have hurt his legs a little bit, but we won't speculate.
He is very, very slow getting out. In fact, he is not going to get out. He's staying in the car. He might be jammed in the car there.
You can see from the damage that that Nissan took a tremendous lick. And although he's moving around in the car, taking off the gloves, and all the safety workers are there, Jeff BRABHAM slow to get out of that car.
this is something with these temporary street circuits, like in a parking lot, like you were saying, it's just concrete barrier, and it's almost like you're driving through a tunnel. You're going from outside wall to inside wall to outside wall, and you just don't have any room for air. And the car is just straight into a wall with hardly any speed scrubbed off at all, and it does extensive damage like this.
Bob, it appears what might have happened. Look at that right rear wheel. It is gone, and yet there's no damage on the bodywork itself. I think part of the suspension has broken, and that has thrown him into the wall.
You notice Jeff Brabham spun the car earlier and then was twisting knobs on the dashboard in order to change the car's condition. We're going to take another look at what happened to Jeff Brabham.
Now here he is. We're just going down this fast section of track here. Very, very quick section. Pulling out, trying to get a shot at Ludwig if he possibly can. No, he locked up the wheels. He has just locked everything up. Oh, and a tremendous impact. That has to be 130, 140 miles an hour. We're going to get an in-car look. Watch, he'll try and slide over to the inside here. He'll want to try, if possible, passing Ludwig under braking. A very quick section of track here. Gets the inside. There is still an opening right now. And right now, he is realizing Ludwig is moving over. He is on the brakes trying to avoid Ludwig, but no longer a driver. Now you're a passenger, and that steering wheel isn't working. Incredible impact. Look at the windshield flying out there.
Oh, and you saw Jeff Brabham lean his head to the left. He knew what was coming, and he was prepared for the shock. But I don't know if there's anything you can do as he reaches down to his knees. I think his feet probably took a shot there. The car basically making its own way to the inside. Down in turn 7, the 6 and 7 area. There he is out of the race car, so he was evidently able to get out. Holding his left knee is Jeff Brabham.
That had to be a 45-degree impact at 140 miles an hour. We will have a full course yellow for this.
The yellow flag is indeed out, and the safety car will be back out to pick up the leader, Martin Brundle in the Jaguar. There you see the position has not changed. Bob Wallach has not overtaken Martin Brundle, and he will not be able to now as the safety car comes out to take over. But each of these drivers now headed down toward the point of impact just suffered by Jeff Brabham will cast a look out to the left to make sure that their colleague is all right. More in a moment. Has, always will.
In the International Motorsports Association premier event on a race weekend, you have two classes of cars out on the racetrack at the same time. The Grand Touring prototypes, such as this Porsche 962, and the Camel Light competitors, such as this Pontiac Spice Firebird over here. Now, although the cars look very similar, there are some differences: horsepower, weight, and top-end speed. The horsepower in the Grand Touring prototypes, or GTPs as they're known, such as the Porsche, are around 750 horsepower, weighing in at upwards of 2,100 pounds. The Camel Light competitors weigh in between 1,800 and 1,900 pounds and put out about 350 horsepower. As far as top-end speed is concerned, well, the GTPs will be streaking down the straightaways at 165 miles an hour, while the Camel Light competitors will be giving chase at 145 miles an hour. I'm Ralph Shaheen with another Quaker State Quick Fact. Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
We're back, still under caution here at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, where a crash involving a couple of the Camel Lights cars has brought out the yellow flag once again. 64 laps of this 1.6-mile circuit are now in the books, and about 30 minutes of racing remained in what is a timed race, not a certain number of laps or a set distance. It is a timed race that will determine who wins a $140,000 first prize. Jeff Brabham suffering a tremendous crash, taking his Nissan out of the race. I don't want to hex the guy, but we should point out that all three of his losses in the Nissan have come on street courses: Miami, San Antonio, and now here at Del Mar in 1988.
They have not been kind. It was really amazing that both Miami and San Antonio, he was running away with the race and ran into some sort of mechanical problem. I think it was braking problems at Miami, and it was a broken drive shaft at San Antonio. They fixed the drive shaft problem, however, and did win the Columbus Street Race, so I don't think Jeff's particularly worried about a hex as such.
Big crowd on hand for a great stop, final stop on the IMSA Camel GT Series for 1988. Now, when we get started, once again, Bob Wallach in the number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche will be right behind the leading Jaguar, Martin Brundle. There you see them running nose to tail. It is very important that Bob Wallach get around and into the lead. If he can do it, he can win the manufacturer's title for Porsche over Nissan for 1988. But as things stand right now, that manufacturer's championship will go to Nissan if the race were to end at this moment.
I think, too, what Bob is really thinking about winning is the prize money today. There's $80,000 to win it, and then the Camel bonus for this race is another $60,000. So $140,000 payday for the winner of this race.
We should point out that the Camel Pyramid bonus has inflated the overall winner's take to $140,000. That is a first-time bonus for cars, not drivers, but for cars for winning for the first time on the series. Because of Nissan's great season, there haven't been many new winners on the series this year, and as a result, that $10,000 per race rolls over and adds another $10,000 every time. $60,000 in bonus money at stake here at Del Mar. Great. I notice the number 84 Nissan now, Derek Daly, has pitted, and he'll be getting new rubber all around in anticipation of a green flag.
Yeah, there's a 4-tire stop. He's getting complete fresh rubber, and it doesn't really penalize you too much to rejoin the back of the race at this point. You're only a matter of a few hundred yards behind the leaders. If you can get through traffic cleanly, then you get right back up into the battle. And with the new tires, this is a great advantage at this point in the race.
I didn't notice fuel going in, but I'm sure he has enough to go the rest of the distance, does Derek Daly, who came to this team just one race ago at Columbus to partner Jeff Brabham and hopefully lift him up to the championship, as well as lifting Nissan to the manufacturer's title. They were eminently successful in that regard. Brabham won the race, actually didn't need any help. He ran away with it at Columbus and won the championship. And now for this man, Derek Daly, only his second race in the car on a brand new circuit he's not seen before. He is trying to make Nissan champion of the IMSA Camel GTP.
Landing that second Nissan ride, it's the equivalent of racing's winning of a lottery. You just couldn't dream of a better ride to get.
Manufacturer's championship on the line. Lights are out on the pace car. We anticipate a green flag. And let's look very closely at the battle between this guy, the number 61, Martin Brundle, and Bob Wallach following in the number 67 Porsche.
And watch for Wallach off the start. This might be an opportunity for him to get on a boost as quickly as he can. Look at Brundle trying to drag it down. He wants to get the Porsche off boost, and then he'll jump on the gas.
And he does it. The Jaguar gets a little bit squiggly. Bob Wallach comes alongside on the outside. It's going to be a drag race down to the turn.
Now, who can brake? Oh, bump, bump, couple of bumps. They're both going to... He goes straight through. Brundle is straight through. He couldn't turn it. Spins the car around.
What a piece of driving by Martin Brundle, who dives back onto the racetrack into the first available hole. But it's too late. Bob Wallach has pulled it off and gone by.
And what psychology by Wallach? He was on the outside, the more difficult of the two positions, but Brundle did not have good traction. He was on an area of track where the pavement was not used that much. A little bit of dust. We're going to see a replay of this. Let's just watch. Now watch the Jaguar. Here's contact right there. Now Brundle is onto an uncured piece of pavement, and the car won't... Look at this. The wheels are stopped. Absolutely motionless. He was getting no traction at all. Wallach had the presence of mind to release his for a second and get by as Brundle slid straight through.
Well, give the place to Wallach, but certainly give the excitement award to Martin Brundle, who just kicked that puppy right around in the lane there, popped the clutch, and off he goes. And right now, Martin Brundle, with fire in his eyes and the bit between his teeth, is after this. Right now, things have changed dramatically here at Del Mar. Porsche back on top in the manufacturer's race. Bob Wallach in line for a $140,000 payday. Don't let it excite you too much. Getting happy feet at the head of the straightaway there.
Tremendously cagey move, but let's not discount Brundle. He is one of the top drivers in the world. And look, there's the Jaguar back there. I think he's coming down pit lane, though. He is. We can see the Jag entering the pits, the top of the picture there.
Oh, this may take away a really dramatic moment. If there is some problem with the Jaguar, let's go down to Chris Economaki in the Jag pits.
No, I'm in the paddock area with Jeff Brabham, who's had a chance to change posts. Jeff, we saw your accident. It was a horrendous crash. What was it that caused it?
Well, basically, it was my fault, you know. I went to the inside on Klaus, and I decided that I couldn't make the pass, so I got on the brakes, and I just locked the front wheels up, and the next minute I knew I was in the wall. So just kind of a driver error, I'm afraid.
It was an awfully hard hit at Shaw on our television show. What did it feel like at the wheel?
Well, I knew it was going to hurt, you know, and the worst thing that happened to me is my knees banged together really hard, and you know, it was like hitting your two funny bones in your knee, and I couldn't walk for a little while, but I think I'm basically all right, and I'd just like to say hi to my wife at Rosina, who's at home, and I'm okay.
Oh, that's good. Earlier you had spun. What caused that?
Well, I don't know, really. I felt that Ludwig, you know, hadn't come in and changed tires, and I felt if I got a really good shot out of the corner, you know, I would be able to get past him and get into the lead. And I don't know. I don't know if I got hit from behind or I just got on the boost too hard, and with the tires a little bit cold, it got away from me. I really am not sure, but you know, that was kind of a, you know, that was disappointing at the time because I felt we could get in the lead, and you never know what can happen from then. So, you know, it just wasn't our day.
Well, your teammate Eric Daly's lying third and running very well. Maybe you will have something to cheer about when it's all over.
I'm going to go out and cheer him on. So.
Okay, good luck to you, and thanks for coming by. Jeff Brabham out of the race after a wicked crash. Back to you, Bob Varsha.
Meanwhile, Bob Wallach is all over the racetrack trying to keep that Porsche out front. Martin Brundle, with a new set of tires, is out to run him down. Don't go away. More in a moment. Coming up Thursday night, Speed Week with Bob Jenkins and Larry Newber covering all the highlights from racing action around the country. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday night. Watch for Speed Week here on ESPN. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Bill Adam up in the announced position. Davy Jones from the Jaguar team is with us as well. Down on pit road, Chris Economaki and Ralph Shaheen. And you're looking at the leader, and a surprise leader he is. Bob Wallach from Strasbourg, France, driving for Jim Busby in the BF Goodrich Porsche 962, a car that was originally not even supposed to come to this race. They decided at the last minute, yeah, it's just down the road from our shops up in the Los Angeles area, California. And here they are on the front row of the grid for the race and on the point as we get into the waning moments of the Grand Prix of Southern California at Del Mar. Quickly, Wallach swings to the outside, and it looks like that was the number 15 Porsche, I think, John Graham out of Canada.
That's the Calagian car.
And he has got to keep that car on its feet because that car has a chance of winning a $30,000 prize for the most racing miles covered during 1988. That title was held pretty firmly by Bryce Cobb and Rob Dyson in the number 16 Porsche. That car now out of the race, and since only 60-odd miles separated them, if John Graham can keep that car on the racetrack and cover 70 miles or so, he is going to pick up $30,000. But right now, it looks like he's got his hands full.
Even Dry can't understand this because the pace that car is running at right now is very, very slow.
The Kodak Copiers Endurance Trophy. Oh, there's their leader. This is Martin Brundle, who was way back in the pack. Not the leader. He was challenging, or he was holding the lead when Bob Wallach pulled a great inside move at the end of the front straightaway. Martin Brundle held his position, but could not get the car to stop and turn, went off the racetrack, flipped it right back on. But now he is having to make up time, and he is carving through this field.
Boy, this should be a spectacular performance.
Presently shown in 4th position. On the lead lap with Wallach. Make your top 4. Wallach followed by Klaus Ludwig, number 86. 84 is Derek Daly with a Nissan. And this guy, Martin Brundle for Jaguar, running in 4th position.
Well, what a foursome to play with, too, as the race is winding down and all that money at stake, as well as the pride. These fellas want to go out on a winning note. They want to finish up the season with a win, particularly Jaguar. They started with the win, and really, because of the Jaguar dominance, have had a number of second places, which has not been satisfactory. So, and I'm sure you know this, Davey.
No, that's right. You know, we came into the season with a lot of high hopes after Jaguar winning the World Endurance Championship last year, but we won the 24 Hours of Daytona, and it's been a tough season for us, but we learned a lot. Naturally, we would like to win a few more races, but we learned a lot this season, and I think going into next year will be just what we learned this year will be better.
We're watching Bob Wallach, who finished second in that 24 Hours of Daytona, and here is Klaus Ludwig closing up in 2nd position. Maybe I got to tell you, I know all of you guys on the Castrol Jaguar team feel like next to winning there is nothing, but I don't think there's ever been a better debut season for any car in the IMSA CAMEL GT season, coming out winning the toughest race of all, a long string of second-place finishes. I know that's frustrating for you guys, but on behalf of all of us at ESPN who have watched you all year long, congratulations on a great year, and we really look forward to seeing you again next year.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're looking forward to next year already, but we'd like to go out on a winning note, and I'm sure Martin Brundle's giving that car absolutely everything it's got
I'll bet he is.
To bring it home in that number 1 position.
And talking about giving everything, just look at the car here, just at the back. As we watch Wallach go through a corner here, the car right there is Klaus Ludwig. That's the Bayside Racing car, and he is closing very, very quickly on Wallach. There he is there. That's 2nd place right there.
It's Porsche against Porsche, and don't you know that all the folks from Porsche out there are hoping that these guys don't get together, because a Porsche must win this race in order for Porsche to take its 4th straight Manufacturers Championship and its 28th all-time in IMSA racing in each different class. So
I believe the 50th victory for the Porsche 962.
And the 50th victory. Now Klaus Ludwig closing in slowly. This is what he did at Columbus a few weeks ago before his car ran out of brakes and he wasn't able to catch Jeff Brabham. great action here. And oh, Jack Baldwin has gone off in the Peerless Corvette.
Oh, and he has hit hard as well. Look at that back corner.
Tore off the right rear. It looks like maybe he might have hit one side and then the other. He's down there at the turn 2 area. Oh, tough break for Jack Baldwin out of Marietta, Georgia. His wife, Joni, is set to deliver a baby, their first child, in 2 to 3 weeks.
Boy, she might have been just delivering it right then if she was watching that.
We'll keep an eye on Jack Baldwin's situation. He appears to be out of danger as far as the car is concerned. Workers are coming over to extract Jack from the race car. Meanwhile, here is the leader, Bob Wallach, making his way around. Back at Baldwin's situation, a corner worker went over and moved back. I guess Jack signaled that he was okay. Meanwhile, this is the battle for first place. Bob Wallach from Strasbourg, France, one of the finest Porsche racers in the world. Well, make that perhaps 2 of the finest Porsche racers in the world.
I agree.
Along with Klaus Ludwig. We asked Klaus, who is one driver who has raced all over the world, if he can adapt quickly to new racetracks like the one we've got here at Del Mar. And Klaus Ludwig says that adapting to tracks is no big deal when you've done as much racing as he has. You saw him flip the headlights on. That is to let Bob Wallach know that he is there and maybe force a little bit of a stagger, wouldn't you think, Bill?
Now look at this on the back of the car. We just noticed something. On the left side of the Bayside car, part of the tunnel is collapsing. That is going to affect the road holding of the car. As he goes through the corners, you can see the tunnels right up the middle of the car. Now as he exits this corner, we may get a look. There's Wallach. And there's Ludwig. Just on look, see now, there's that part of that tunnel that's folding.
Left side flapping.
That will decrease the downforce that he has to use.
And even worse, it'll decrease it on only one side of the car, which will make it a handful to drive. Meanwhile, here is the number 61 car of Martin Brundle, presently in 4th position. He's going to try to catch up to Derek.
I believe, excuse me, Bob, I think he's up to 3rd.
He has passed by. There is Daly in the Nissan dropping down into 4th, so put Martin Brundle up into the number 3 hole. So it's Bob Wallach for Porsche, Klaus Ludwig for Porsche, and Martin Brundle with Jaguar in 3rd position ahead of Derek Daly in the Nissan.
And don't count Jaguar up. He is charging through this field right now. He's really, really flying.
Martin Brundle was almost 29 seconds behind the leader about 5 laps ago. Make that gap now 14.3 seconds, and this one is going to be really great at the finish.
All right, who do you want to bet a hamburger on? Lay it on the line right now.
Well, you bring up a good point, all hamburgers aside, Bill, that there is a trophy awarded for the drive of the race, sponsored by the folks from Phillips Business Systems, the Norelco Drivers' Cup. Who are you going to pick as the outstanding drive of the day? There is also a year-long Norelco trophy, which has been renamed in honor of the late Al Holbert, who was killed in that tragic plane crash in Columbus, Ohio, just a few weeks ago. From now on, the annual cup given by the Norelco folks will be called the Holbert Trophy. And with it comes a $15,000 prize for the outstanding driver in the Camel GT Prototype Series for 1988. But right now, okay, Bill, let me turn the question right back at you. Who's your outstanding driver?
I couldn't really pick one right now. There have been so many brilliant performances so far, but the way Brundle is going right now, I would make him the odds-on favorite.
Klaus Ludwig dropping back a little bit. Bob Wallach is pulling it out. I tell you what, the early forerunner, in my view, has to be Bob Wallach, who took that car, put it on the front row under staggering conditions, and has been right up there the whole race, made one stop for tires, and now he is quickly pulling out a big lead on Klaus Ludwig with another Porsche.
Yeah, he is stretching that lead very quickly. I think Klaus is running into some sort of a problem, perhaps a brake problem similar to Columbus. They found when they were running close to the other cars that the cooling was not sufficient to keep the brake wear down. And with the pads wearing away, Klaus was saying he literally finished the race with no pads and the pistons of the brakes themselves working on the rotors. Virtually zero braking.
Really tough to get around a street course with that concrete all over the place, and you don't have any brakes. There's the number 67 car going out the bottom of your picture. 86 is the second place car, and here, with nothing but clean track in between he and Klaus Ludwig, comes Martin Brundle from Kings Lynn, England, in that Castrol Jaguar.
Boy, and is he ever flying around this track.
That gap is now down to less than 10 seconds. Davey, you pulling for your guy?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. You know, the boys on the team, they've done really one heck of a job, and you know, it was all in Martin's hands, and I think he realizes that he made a bit of a mistake, and he's absolutely given it everything he's got to pull through for the team.
Well, the good racers don't make a second mistake. And right now, Martin Brundle is hoping to move up, catch the leader in the race, Bob Wallach, with Klaus. Don't go away. An exciting conclusion coming up. Things getting really dicey as Martin Brundle goes underneath Klaus Ludwig and makes the pass into second place. Bob Wallach leads. The 61 Jaguar of Martin Brundle is second. Third is Klaus Ludwig, just having been demoted. And just before Martin Brundle was able to make that pass, Ludwig drove him right up through the pylons. Let's take another look at what happened before Martin Brundle made his pass, coming down into the 180-degree hairpin.
Okay, Brundle slides the inside, but look at Ludwig. He's moving over. Brundle doesn't lift off and just drives through the cones. Here's a real plus for getting that wall out of the way that was there last year. He couldn't have done it. Now all it's cost him is a few seconds of time, and he made a pass 2 corners later.
Having proven that the Jaguar is an off-road vehicle as well as a great race car, Martin Brundle is closing by 2 seconds a lap. There is Bob Wallach just going out of the picture at the top of your screen. The last victory for Bob Wallach came in 1986 on the streets of Columbus, Ohio. The last victory for Jim Busby's Porsche team, 1985 at Riverside, California, where they finished first and second. But right now, it's been a season without a victory since the Daytona 24 hours for Martin Brundle and the Jaguar crew, and he intends to get it, and along with it, a $140,000 first prize.
Well, a great day. A lot of people are pulling for Martin right now as he's closing right up on the tail. And don't forget, the Nissan team is pulling for him too. They do not want a Porsche victory. Here he goes. He's just filling up the mirror. He's going to try it right down here right now, and there we go.
That's where Martin Brundle went off, trying to challenge earlier in the race, but this time he made it work.
Beautiful job.
And now Martin Brundle will try to put distance between himself and Bob Wallach. By my unofficial estimate, there are about 8 minutes remaining in this 2-hour event. Martin Brundle is now your leader. Bob Wallach runs second, Klaus Ludwig third. For you Jack Baldwin fans out there who saw him go nose first into the tires, the car is now in the pits, and Jack is in fine shape. No problems there. Meanwhile, the battle in the Camel Lights class, Dan Marvin is pulling away. He is now almost 2 laps ahead of the second place Lights car. So it looks like Dan Marvin in good position to take his second victory. His 5th victory of the year, that is. There is the Jaguar crew in the upper right-hand corner. It's been a season-long drought for them since back in January at Daytona, and they will be one happy bunch of guys if they can close for Tom Walkinshaw Racing with a victory this year. And look at the gap already opened up by Martin Brundle, 29 years old.
And you don't think those fellows are excited? They're just dancing, jiving, moving all over the place. There's a whole bunch of energy they got to burn up right now.
Here is graphic illustration of just how fast Martin Brundle is going. In 15 laps, he went from 29 seconds behind to about a 3-second lead. Can I change my vote in that top driver of the race?
I'm sorry, Bob.
It's so hard to pick, but so many great drives out here. Here's a guy who's got one, Bob Wallach, doing everything he can. Remember, he has driven this entire race in 80-85-degree heat alone. Meanwhile, Martin Brundle took over for Jan Lammers, who drove brilliantly from the pole to put the car out front. And right now, Jaguar having things all their way. Wallach once more down into the S's on the back side of the race course. Ahead of him, a couple of Camel Lights competitors, including Tom Hessert, moving along slowly on his way towards a possible Camel Light championship. But here is the leader, Martin Brundle. Through the hairpin one more time where Klaus Ludwig drove him off into the pylons. But he came back and made the pass, putting Ludwig down into 3rd position, then putting Wallach down into 2nd.
And this man, he is so deceptive, too. He is not showing any of the tendencies we've seen all year long. The Jaguar with the very stiff suspension has been a chattering car. You see it just bumping and weaving all around the course. But Martin is driving very, very smoothly and very much of a rhythm right now. Look at this, just glassy smooth through here. Gets on the power, a little bit of a power slide, but nothing violent.
As we watch Martin Brundle make his way around, safely ensconced in 1st place, here is Dan Marvin in that AC Delco Pontiac number 55, fielded by Huffaker Racing. They also won the Kodak Copiers pit contest earlier in the day, the season-long championship worth $20,000 to them. We now have 5 minutes remaining in the race, and it looks like Dan Marvin will pick up victory number 5. Nice payday for he and the Huffaker Racing crew as well. Hats off to Dan Marvin, who has driven the entire distance, like Bob Wallach, solo in the race car on a very hot day in Del Mar, California. There is your leader, Martin Brundle. The minutes winding down. About 4 minutes remaining in the 2-hour event. You're watching live here on ESPN. The exciting conclusion coming up. back live at Del Mar, California, where Martin Brundle is taking Jaguar to its first victory since the beginning of the year when they won the 24 Hours of Daytona. Bob Barsha and Bill Adam with you. Davy Jones has made his way down to welcome his teammate in victory lane. Should all go well in the seconds that remain for Martin Brundle and the Jaguar team. The waning moments of the 1988 Camel GT season being brought to you here on ESPN. 2 minutes remain in the race. The leader is the Jaguar of Brundle. Second position, Bob Wallach for Porsche. Third, Klaus Ludwig. Fourth is Derek Daly in the Nissan. And should Daly move up into third position, he could swing that manufacturer's battle in favor of Nissan. But right now, Porsche, if things ended right now, would win the manufacturers by a single point. Here is a battle between two Porsches for second place on the racetrack. Bob Wallach being chased by the number 86 of Klaus Ludwig.
And Ludwig is caught right back up against. We saw him fall back, and he has really positioned himself to challenge once more. He may, yeah, he's trying to slot up the inside here. Now heading towards the very quick S's. I think he's got it. He's through. There you have new second place with Klaus Ludwig ahead of Bob Wallach now.
Klaus Ludwig taking Wallach. I wonder if perhaps Wallach isn't feeling the effects of driving so hard for so long. Of course, Ludwig has been in the car the whole time as well.
Yeah, the situation should be equal for both of them. I suspect it's just a tire development right now that maybe the BF Goodrich are losing a little bit of adhesion at this point.
What a great weekend it's been. Willie T. Ribbs won the GTO race this weekend. Scott Pruitt, of course, the GTO champion at IMSA. Tommy Kendall won a very eventful GTU race as well. You'll see Willie's victory a little bit later here on ESPN in a tape delay format. Right now, Martin Brundle making his way down to the start-finish line, and I believe he has one lap remaining. We are probably on the final lap of this race. There's a timed race, so if the 2-hour mark expires before Martin Brundle gets there, the checkered flag will fly, and the Jaguar crew will no doubt go into ecstasy.
A great and a well-deserved day. Look at that. There's Martin just getting on the gas. One last little power slide out of that hairpin.
Give credit to the Jaguar team for great preparation. They lost a car in a big practice crash. Jan Lammers and Martin Brundle were selected of the 4 drivers. John Nielsen and Davy Jones electing to take the side seat while their teammates took the car and drove it all the way to victory lane.
And really, just the most stirring performance. This has to be one of the hot GTP races we have ever seen.
Martin Brundle with just a couple of turns left. This is the turn 7 area, the 180-degree hairpin, as tight as it gets on this 1.6-mile, 10-turn race course, site of the 2nd annual Grand Prix of Southern California. There is Klaus Ludwig, who will finish up 3rd on the day as Martin Brundle makes his way to the front straightaway. We anticipate a checkered flag, and indeed it waves for Martin Brundle and Jaguar. Down up to the pit wall he goes. To let his mechanics get a close look, and one of them nearly lands on his head on the racing surface. That's Jan Lammers who hopped the wall. Shades of former world champ Hans Stuck, who used to jump out on the racetrack and leap in the air when his teammates took a checkered flag.
Well, really tremendous performance. Just outstanding drive. Very precise. The only mistake Martin made all day was that late brake maneuver going into 1 when Wallach was able to get by. Other than that, a flawless performance at 100%.
There is Jan Lammers, who took the car, put it on the pole, and then put it out front, being congratulated by his teammates. Overall winner is Martin Brundle. Dan Marvin will win Camel Lights, and Porsche will win the manufacturer's title for 1988. The margin of victory, 8.59 seconds for Martin Brundle, and we'll be back to meet him in a moment. And after a thoroughly enjoyable and eventful race, Martin Brundle and Jan Lammers have brought Jaguar home to victory here in the final race of the Camel GT season. Bob Wallach and Klaus Ludwig finishing 2nd and 3rd, Derek Daly 4th, Bobby Rahal 5th. We hope you've enjoyed all of our coverage of the Camel GT this year on ESPN. Our thanks to John Bishop and all the IMSA staff, and we'll see you again for more Camel GT racing next year on ESPN. I'm Bob Barsha for Bill Adam, Chris Economaki, and Ralph Sheheen. So long from Del Mar, California.